So you're having back pain when you're swinging your club, and you want to find out, how do I swing my club without hurting my back? So there's a lot of things that go into swinging a club effectively, but I want to make sure that you're not causing more irritation to your back. And so I want to just show you a few simple things, starting with something called neutral spine, which is essentially your spine's optimum position for doing most anything, but particularly in a rotational sport like golf, tennis, or throwing. So ultimately, when you address the ball, most people tend to kind of bend forward and mostly at their back, where they will flex here versus taking a slight squat and then a hip hinge, which just means that you're moving at the hip only instead of rounding your back this way. So if I wanted to create pain in someone, I would say just bend forward and twist, which is what I see a lot of patients doing during golf. So the first thing I want you to do is, when you address the ball, is to squat and use a dowel or something to maintain neutral position. So what is this magical neutral position? So I often use just a broomstick or a dowel or something like that along the glutes, your upper back, and your head. And looking from the side, you should see that there's no space here, here, or here, that stays glued to my head, upper back, and glutes. And so imagine you're addressing the ball here, where now my spine is not moving at all. The only thing that's moving is the hip. So that's why we call it a hip hinge, is you're hinging at the hip. So now you'd be addressing the ball here, and you would take a backswing and swing through. Now you wouldn't actually swing that way. It'd be awfully stiff and you'd probably have some problems, but it's a good template to start. So ultimately, once you get into that neutral position here, the other you're in the best possible position. The other thing I see is that amateurs and some more developed athletes are twisting at their waist, twisting in their torso instead of letting the hips do the motion. And so if you're addressing the ball and you're swinging here and it's mostly upper body, then you're creating a lot of torque, a lot of twisting in the spine that can create some serious problems. So what we want to do instead is, as you address the ball in your backswing, once you get into this position, then your ribs and your hips are locked together. So now from that motion, you drive those together and drive that hip through. So there's no actual movement here. It's all through your hip. Okay? And so what that will do is it'll transfer the strength in your legs up through your core to your shoulders and then to the club. Okay, so first is neutral position in your spine, and second would be using your hip to drive the ball. So backswing, hip, instead of swinging just with the club. And that takes a long time to develop. I often tell athletes that that's the first thing that should be one of the first things you learn when you swing a club, and it should be the last thing you practice on your last day you ever play. So, I hope this was helpful. If you still have some questions, give us a call. We'd love to help.